The best way to a man's heart is through the stomach. So goes a familiar proverb. One way to gain friends is to invite people to a meal. In the business world, to gain the favor of a client, one treats him to a meal in the restaurant and even at home. In the cultural world of Jesus, sharing of resources such as food was a social way of coming to community. It was a custom that if a patron or family member invited one to a feast, then he must repay by inviting the patron in return. But in his case, God does not expect to be reciprocated. God does not expect a favor granted in return for something like I help you, you help me, I give you, you give me back. God is not like that. In the first place, God owns everything. God is the giver of all gifts and blessings. So, what can we give Him in return? Nothing. All God asks is a grateful heart and a readiness to share one's blessing with one's fellow human beings without expecting that they returned the favor. So Jesus says, if the poor cannot pay back, means that you are fortunate because repayment will be made to you when the virtuous rise again. So Jesus also says, when you give a lunch or a dinner, do not ask your friends, brothers, relations, or rich neighbors for fear they repay your courtesy by inviting you in return. The best repayment comes from God, who rewards in this life and the next. Secondly, in God's estimation, social status does not count. Yes, God loves everyone, but He has a special love. We call it a preferential option for the humble and the lowly. Thus, humility is the way, the best way to come closer to God. All the great men and women of the Bible were humble persons who at the same time defended the rights of the poor and the downtrodden. And in the parable, Jesus speaks to the guests, telling them not to seek places of honor. Humble, loving service is more important in God's kingdom than status. And so the first reading gives the advice of a father to a son. It says, the greater you are, the more you should behave humbly, and then you will find favor with the Lord. So, what is humility? How do we practice humility? Some people try to give the appearance of humility, to manipulate others. Others think that humility means putting themselves down. No, Humility is not self-degradation. It is realistic assessment. Humble people compare themselves only with Christ, realize their sinfulness, and understand their limitations. They acknowledge their gifts and talents in a spirit of gratitude and in thankfully connecting them to their source, which is God. And they use them in humble, loving service of others for the community. Humble people rejoice in their gifts and talents because they are able to see themselves truthfully. That is the truth. If you are a good cook, that means you are a good cook, but you thank God for that gift. It is the truth. That is authentic humility. But they also see others truthfully. Consequently, they are able to rejoice, to be happy and rejoice in other people's gifts and talents instead of feeling unhappy and envious. They are happy people, and they are able to affirm people in their gifts, able to encourage them, rather than feeling envious and gossip. This is truly humble people. The second reading tells us that our ultimate destination is the banquet in the heavenly kingdom. To sit at that banquet is the greatest honor one can ever achieve, and to miss out on that banquet is the greatest tragedy. But to join, one has to dress up as for the feast, for the banquet, wearing the garment of humility and a special love for the poor and the needy. I would like to conclude with a story of a man in search for humility. It's very rare to find such person. And for such person who have attained this, they experience interior freedom and peace. So many years ago, there lived a man who was able to love and forgive everyone he met. And because of this, God sent an angel to him. God asked me to come and tell you that He wants to reward you for your goodness. The angel said, any favor that you want will be granted. So, would you like to have the gift of curing people? No, by no means. I prefer that God Himself choose those to be healed. And what about bringing sinners back to the truth? No, that is the task of angels like you. I don't want to be venerated by anyone and serve as an example all my life. The angels say, I can't go back to heaven without granting you a miracle. If you don't pick one, I will be obliged to accept one. You will be obliged to accept one. So the man reflected for a while. And then, these Bible verse of Matthew 6, 1-6, the gospel reading which we hear every Ash Wednesday. When Jesus says, when you pray, when you fast, when you practice almsgiving, you don't have to show off, display in order to attract attention, in order that people may notice you. But when God sees you do in secret, God will reward you. Wow, this text came to him immediately. And so he told the angel, okay, I want good to be done through me. but without anyone noticing, not even myself, so that I don't commit the sin of vainglory. And the angel gave to that man's shadow, the man's shadow to heal, but only when the sun was shining on his face. In that way, wherever he went, the sick were healed, and sad people regained their joy. The man traveled many years over the earth without ever realizing the miracles, the wonders he worked, how he was God's instrument, because when he was facing the sun, his shadow was always behind, at the back. In that way, he lived and died without being aware of his sanctity. Sisters and brothers, our aim should be humble, loving service, not those worldly external success. In our group sharing yesterdays and so on, there's use of the corporate success. Corporate can be very external. Corporate success can happen when we climb the ladder of success and notice that we are on the right side of the building. Whoever exalts himself will be humble, and whoever humbles himself will be exalted.